Canada, East Coast, West Coast. A lot of people that I don't get to see on camera now. So this is really a wonderful opportunity, and courses are free, as you can see, and everybody's welcome. So thank you, Sword, and thank you everybody for signing up. I know this class we had more than 600 people sign up, and I think that might be a part of the reason why we're having a little bit of a difficulties. Again, we apologize, and we're gonna move forward. My name is Koshiki, and maybe just a little bit about myself. Um, I grew up in Japan. My mother is from upstate New York, and my father is from Kumamoto, Japan. That's down in south. I see some of you popping up. Um, my mother was teaching English at YMCA, and that's where they met and decided to have family there. So I grew up in Japan along with my brothers, and now I'm here in Minnesota. A little bit about my childhood. I have on my father's side, my grandmother and my aunt, they both had a restaurant together. So I think they had a lot of influence on as far as me cooking today and um, uh, having a restaurant previously and whatnot. They were wonderful cooks. And as a female chef, I share a lot of experiences with them, I guess. And let's see what I was gonna say. So my husband and I started Japanese restaurant back in 2000. And oh, I see my neighbors. And I was always like kind of interested in doing local, organic, healthy, affordable kind of cooking. So that was the main focus of it. And that was great. We did it for a long time, but you might know restaurant is it's a lot of work, and I had two kids, and I always wanted to do take people on the culinary trip to Japan, and that's something that I always wanted to do. And 3 years ago, we sold the restaurant and decided to pursue my dream of taking people on the culinary trips. So that's kind of what I do, and I'm also interested in learning where things come from and how things are made. So on the trips and a lot of our cooking, rather than just eating, it's like, oh, that's great, check that box. I like to take people to farms so you can kind of like learn where things are grown. One place we go is a wasabi farm, the wasabi little green garnish in the sushi. You can watch them grow and you can sample food made out of wasabi. We go market and do cooking classes, and we go to breweries for sake, miso making, so on and so forth. Anyways, if you're interested in learning more about what I do, on that, you got this ingredients recipe packs on my information on the bottom. So if you're interested in sending me email, I know you the buttons are muted, so you can type in your questions, and if we don't get to them, I can reply to you maybe tomorrow if you want to send me a direct email. That works too. I have website, my food blog site. Let's see, Instagram. That's where I put like maybe what I made for kids today, or things like that. Maybe that's not your thing, but they're all here. So I would like to hear from you. Okay, so maybe that's good. And let's go into cooking. I know some of you might be cooking along with me, so I'll try to pause here and there to let you and try to maybe do a little close up on the boards, and especially when we do the rice bowls. Okay, so menu. Today's menu. I picked a bunch of Japanese comfort food. I mean, to be honest, like all the Japanese food is comfort food for me, because like when I moved here, I just like could not get Japanese food, and I started making food at home. So everything's comfort food, but I picked three. Given the season right now, I thought that these might be We can find ingredients to go on these items, and also the rice bowls. A lot of people are kind of interested in how to make it. So towards the end, maybe we can. So the one on top is called Jiru. Buta is a pork. Um, jiru, the word jiru comes from soup. So it's kind of direct translation would be pork soup, but it's more like a country style hearty, more like a stew, miso soup. That makes sense to you. If you go to a Japanese restaurant, you might get more of like the broth with maybe scallions and tofu, but this one's going to have a lot more ingredients, a lot of root vegetables, a lot of mushrooms, little pork. So this itself can be like served as almost like a meal, or if you have this in a rice bowl, I think that'll make a nice lunch or dinner for anybody. This also holds well, so if you make it tonight, keep it in the fridge. It's gonna taste good for lunch tomorrow. The next one, the sukiyaki. Um, if you read the description, I think I wrote it sukiyaki style beef, pork and vegetable. I'm sorry, beef, vegetables, and tofu. And that is because my grandmother, who had a restaurant, she used to live upstairs in a small apartment in a small tiny kitchen, and I live far away from her, so I only get to visit her like during the holidays. But you know, her being busy person, she would always make this beef, cabbage, and tofu and have it on the stove. So when she gets myself or other grandchildren, people coming in and hungry, we have something to eat. So that this dish always kind of like brings back a lot of memories for me. We also did this a lot at the restaurant for employee meals too. So it's easy, economical dish to make. And the last one is the onigiri rice bowls. I grew up eating them, but I think these are my children's comfort food. I've made so many of them on like a little fluffy, little bit stickier rice with different stuffing inside and wrap in the crispy nori sheets. So hopefully we can, I can walk you through this. Any questions? So far, so good. I hope. It's kind of sad not to be able to hear from you guys. I'm just talking to the camera.
Yeah, I would just read some of the places people are from while you're doing that. There are people from Australia, Ohio,
okay.
Sydney,
Oh my gosh.
Vancouver, Washington, Virginia, Argentina,
Great.
Hawaii, Canada, Los Angeles, Minneapolis,
Okay.
Arizona.
Wow. So many of you. Thank you so much for coming. Let me move on and let's just go over some of the ingredients. Do you mind just pointing the camera down to the ingredients so they can see it better? Okay. Maybe a little hard to okay, I'll start from. Okay. Or you can just yeah. We'll just start from here. We have tofu to go in sukiyaki. And all of these can be purchased at the Seward Co-op except for this sake, cooking wine. We have pork for the soup. We have beef. We have soy sauce. You have different kinds at home. That's perfectly fine. You can find this one here at the co-op. Mirin is a sweetened rice wine. Sweetened cooking wine. Here's a toasted sesame oil. This is actually, you can drink this. I actually found this at Target for very cheap. You can use it for cooking or you can use it for drinking or both. Miso. They have a couple different kinds. I have white miso today. If you have different kinds of miso you prefer, go ahead. I have plum paste. Some of you might actually have pickled plum with seeds inside. That's fine too. But I found the paste version of it, and that works just fine for the recipe. Rice. Now this one says sushi rice, but what I'm looking for is short white rice. It could be sushi rice or just a short grain. Medium is okay. I don't want any long, drier grains because when you want to make into the triangular shape for the rice bowls, it just wouldn't stick together. Okay, So, and we have bonito flakes for the soup. Now, bonito flakes and kelp, we use these to make the soup stock. We have nori sheets for the rice bowls. What else? We have so many things. For vegetables, I have a couple optional things here. Okay, I got little bean sprouts to put in soup. It's not listed. Shiitake mushrooms. And this one I found here. You know what this is? This is a burdock root. So I'm gonna put this in soup too. If you don't have it, don't worry. These are like optional additions. If you have it, that's great. If not, it's perfectly fine. We have, I start cutting, so I don't have a whole thing, but this was a daikon radish. We have carrots, we have green onions, we have napa cabbage. You've seen napa cabbage? I cut it in half and quarter it. Okay, so I think that's all the ingredients that we're gonna be using.
People are asking, what is the root again? Yeah.
This guy. This one's called burdock root. B-U-R-D-O-C-K. And this is actually an invasive plant, and I think they grow in Minnesota. These are from Wisconsin. It's really fibrous root vegetable. It grows in the root, underground, but it's really good for you. If you feel like you need to eat some fiber, I would go for this one. Okay, and now if you took my last class, the nabeyaki udon, I walk you through the dashi making, which is a stock that we use in Japanese cooking quite a bit. So if you flip the page, the dashi making is listed here. And I got it started a little bit. So in here, I soaked kelp, dry kelp, in the cold water for maybe an hour or so, at least 30 minutes. You can soak it like overnight if you like. Then I started the water on the stove top, and it's almost about to boil, which then I'm gonna turn the heat off, take the kelp out, then put the bonito flakes in there. So that's all listed here. I'm making a much smaller amount today. I think I'm doing like 4 cups of water. I do this. Okay. So this is a little more kelp than I probably need to put in, but I just grab a small piece, and now it's pretty enlarged, but it was probably about this big. Then, so I turn the heat off, and I'm gonna add the bonito. Okay. Then I'm just gonna steep this for 15 minutes. And that's it. That's how you make it. And sometimes I don't even have time for this at home. You can also buy a powdered one. And if you actually go online or some grocery stores, you can find one that does not have MSG, no additives, no extra flavoring. It's just like an organic, straight up dashi in powdered form. So I usually have that in my pantry because I don't always have 30 minutes to make just a stock. And use that. And one thing is like the Japanese dashi doesn't last too long in the refrigerator. The flavor just kind of flattens out. So it's probably best just to use it up in a couple days. I wouldn't try to freeze it, as like I said, the taste just kind of goes flat on it. So anyways, I'm gonna set a timer for 15 minutes. So I won't forget when I'm talking, which happens a lot. All right. Timer. Okay, hold on. Okay. So today is not a digital technical. Okay, all right, got 15 minutes on that. Okay, let's set this aside. And the rice, I got it cooking already. It actually cooked, but what I did is we're doing 2 cups of rice today. So I measured the rice, and in a bowl, I washed it really well until, well, maybe 3 or 4 times until the water comes clear, because you want to get rid of the starch that's in there. Otherwise, it gets really starchy and really sticky. So I recommend that you wash it, then drain it really well. For usual short to medium grain rice, you put for 1 cup of rice, you put 1 1/4 of water. So for 2 cups of rice today, I added 2 1/2 cups of water. Then I set that, let that soak for maybe 30 minutes before I hit the start button on the rice cooker. All right, I'm gonna clear this area just a little bit so you can see the station better. Let's see. Can you see it better? Is that better for you? Okay. All right, so let's do the pork soup. The country style miso soup with pork and root vegetables. Now on here I have serving for 4 people. I'm just going to reduce it to 2 people because I don't have anybody eating. I don't have any audience. So let's start with cutting. I don't know if anybody's cooking with me tonight. Since we got late start, I start cutting them a little bit earlier. So the daikon radish, these are called daikon radish. I cut them in, what is it called? Ichogiri. Icho is ginkgo leaves, so it kind of looks like a ginkgo leaf shapes. So I cut daikon radish and carrots in the same way, like a same thickness. So they're gonna cook about the same time. Make sense? So in order to do that, I peel the daikon radish, cut it in half, then cut it again to quarter it, then you can bring it together, right? Then always curl your fingers and you just slice.
There's a question. Someone asked that they weren't able to find kombu, bonito, or dashi locally.
Oh.
What would you suggest substituting?
Well, substitution, I don't know. You have to order it online, probably. Yep. Yeah, sorry. But if you come to co-op somehow, I think they do a pickup too. Okay, so I cut the daikon radish, carrots, onions, and what I was gonna use, so bean sprouts, I thought it might be nice to add at the end, so I have that. I washed that. Mushrooms, I found beautiful shiitake mushrooms. So I'm gonna take the stems off. These will make nice veggie stock. You can use it for other things, so you can hang on to it if you'd like. And I'm gonna slice the shiitake mushrooms. Okay, it's gonna go in towards the end. And what else we have? Shiitake mushroom, green onions. Green onions, we're gonna, I think we can use the green part for garnish. So we're gonna chop that. Again, at the restaurant, I've had people like taking 1 stem, cutting 1 at a time. That's gonna take you forever. So bring them all together, curl your fingers, then chop, right? Now, no offense, but I think this cutting board is curled. I'm just gonna remove these ones. Okay, now that's probably good for the amount that we're cooking. Okay, what else? Green onions done. We don't have konnyaku yam cakes. I didn't find aburage tofu sheets, but that's okay. But let's add the burdock. So this one, we want to scrape it off using your knife. We're going to scrape this off. So I'm going to do this over sink really quick. Okay, so it looks like that, nice and clean for the most part. Now it's gonna oxidize, so the color is gonna change really quickly. So I wanna cut and put it in the water. And this one, I'm gonna do what's called sasagiri, which is shaving. You know, if you have a peeler, you can use that peeler too. Now this way, you're cutting the fiber across in a diagonal. I mean, you can slice it, but this way it cooks faster and it kind of gives you a nice texture. Okay. Okay. Burdock roots, they're really good for sauteing with carrots with like a little bit of honey or maple syrup and soy sauce and braise it. That's gonna taste really good. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Not too much. And let's do the pork. You can use different kinds of pork. I have pork belly, which is the belly. So it has kind of a lot of fat. This is what they would use for making bacon. But this is not smoked, so it won't have the bacon flavor. You can use the other pork that I normally use is country style ribs without the bones. Now this one has actually a little more fat than I want, but what choice do I have right now? I'm gonna cut them kind of nice and thin, and I can drain out the oil. Let me grab a piece that has a little bit less fat. And while I do that, why don't I heat up the pot? So I'm gonna use this whole thing. If you're using loin, that's fine too. You're just gonna have a little bit drier pork. And if you're cooking with country rib, you might want to leave it in, cook a little bit longer with the vegetables. This pork belly, this cooks really fat, quick, and nice and tender. So I'm gonna kind of sear it, then take it out and put it back into the soup towards the end. Okay, all right. Now in here, so I have this Japanese little pot here. I'm gonna add a little sesame oil. And I'm gonna start with the pork. Oh, it's not sizzling. I can kind of hear a little bit now. Okay, let me get up. Anybody have any questions at this point or quiet audience? I don't know if you've cooked with these pork belly before, but they're really good for stir fry. I know there's a lot of fat and some people are not into that, but I like to do this with like a cabbage for this quick cabbage and carrot stir fry. That works. I do a lot of stir fry with miso, little pork, eggplants, peppers, onions, zucchinis, and once it's nice and stir fry, I make a little sauce with miso, mirin, sake, soy sauce, and add it in.
Here's a question. What
Okay.
percent fat do you want the pork to have?
It's up to you. This one, and even the pork belly that you buy varies. This one looks like more like a 0.5% fat. But I'm gonna like try to cook out the fat and take it out on a paper towel to drain it out. I don't want too much fat in it. Like I don't want my soup to have like fat, like on top. So. But a little bit of fat does kind of give you a nice flavor. I think that's where like the country ribs, they have kind of like a good portion of like, marbles to the meat. So okay, I think it's brown. So I'm gonna take this out on a little paper towel. Okay. All right. Then it's smoky. I'm gonna just wipe this just a little bit, clean it out. Then add a little more oil. Then I'm gonna add veggies. So I'm gonna do onion, carrots, and daikon radish. Just do the whole thing.
And what kind of oil did you use for that again?
Sesame oil. Yep. Toasted sesame oil is usually I usually like to use that. Another thing, if you don't have a lot of it, sometimes I do is I just cook it with like a regular canola oil. Then towards the end, add a little bit of sesame oil just to give the flavor. And then here I'm gonna add the burdock, the shaved burdock. This is another root vegetable. It's gonna take a little while to cook. And then I think my dashi is ready. So I'm gonna strain this into another thing.
And what are you straining off camera right now?
I know. That was the dashi that we're making. Remember with the bonito flakes that was steeping for 15 minutes? And I just used a little colander and strain over. And now I'm gonna put this in here. I think I'm just doing 2 cups. Okay, there you go. I'm gonna bring it up to boil again. Perfect. Okay, so and at this point, I am going to simmer the vegetables for maybe 10-15 minutes until they're nice and tender. Then I'm gonna add the shiitake mushroom and pork back into the pot. Okay? Just give me just a second. I'm gonna clear this area, then move on to the next dish. while the soup is cooking, let's move to the next recipe of the sukiyaki style beef and cabbage and tofu. Like I said, this is kind of gonna, I say style because traditionally the sukiyaki is kind of like you cook it on the table with all your friends and families together. You're using like a, good high quality ingredients. Not that we are not using high ingredients, but it's kind of more like a special occasion. But this is more like an everyday sukiyaki for you. That when you're hungry, it's good and ready to eat. So at the restaurant, we did this quite a bit too. I think I mentioned that already. But for this, I'm gonna slice beef. I cut the napa cabbage already during the technical glitches. I separated the white and green parts. I'm gonna cut the onions and carrots and let's see, maybe some green onions, then some mushrooms. Okay, so would you mind just kind of going here? Onions, you can cut either way, it's fine. Okay, carrots, you can slice. I kind of like it in bias, so I cut them in bias.
How does she cut the cabbage again?
Cabbage, I think we're using like a less than a quarter today. So I washed it and cut the white part separate. I cut it in maybe about an inch length. Then I cut it into a 1 bite size, so it's easier to eat. All right. And the onions, we'll use the white parts at the beginning, then we'll use the green part towards the end. Mushrooms can go in a little bit later, so I'll wait. Beef. Now, if you go to butcher shop, you can ask them to slice it for you, like really nice and thin, almost like a Philly steak kind of thinness. Or you can partially freeze this and then slice it. I did not have time, so I'm just gonna use my knife and my skill here to slice it in like a bite size. Now this is a steak meat, so it doesn't have to cook too long. I'm just gonna sear this. If you have like a chuck meat or something like that, which is fine too, that's what we used at the restaurant. You might want to cook the meat and onions first and simmer in the soy, mirin, and sake until it's nice and tender. Then you want to add the vegetables. Otherwise, you're going to have a tough meat in there. Now, one thing I'm doing is I'm going to make this frying pan nice and hot so I can kind of brown the meat first. All right, bear with me. I'm just gonna slice this away, trying to cut across the grain as much as you can in a bias so you have larger area to bite into. I think there's a chunk of membrane which I'm gonna skip. You don't want tough, chewy piece in there, so cut that out. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Garbage, trash. No, all right. Let me wash my hands. See the smoke sizzle. I'm gonna add a little oil. I think it's nice and hot. Yep, I can kind of see the smoke. You might not want to do that at home too high, but it kind of, you do want to sizzle. If you have a fan, turn the fan on right now.
vegetable oil did you just use for the
This
meat?
is just cooking vegetable oil, canola oil, soybean salad oil. Those would work.
This stick is just filled, or
I think this is a little sticky, so I'm gonna add a little more oil. So I'm just trying to brown this. Okay, looks good. Then I'm gonna take it out. And then here, I'm just gonna leave the beef juice. Lower it just a little bit. I'm gonna add a little more oil. And in here, I'm gonna add the onions, carrots, and the white part of the cabbage. Okay. Smells good. Alright, making a messy kitchen. Wipe it off while it's hot. A little easier. And in here, I mixed the soy sauce, mirin, and sake already. So I'm gonna just add a little bit. Then I'm gonna cut this tofu. I'm gonna use only the half. Now these, you kind of wanna have it in chunks. I like to use silken tofu. I didn't find it. I'm using firm tofu, which is fine. It kind of holds its shape maybe a little better. And there's going to be a lot of moisture from the cabbage and the tofu. So it looks like there's no liquid, but don't worry. Okay, and in here, you can let it cook a little bit longer, but add the green part. Or greener part. What else I have? Mushrooms. I'm just gonna add some. And yam cake would go really well in this dish, but I didn't have it. In Japan, we eat the chrysanthemum leaves, and those are really good. Little bitter, really earthy taste. Gonna add mushrooms, and then put the beef back in here. Juice. Then I'm gonna add rest of the soy, mirin, sake. And I'm just gonna slow cook this for maybe 15, 20 minutes until all the vegetables tender. And maybe towards the end, I'll add the green onions. Okay. So maybe I'll leave it here. Okay, I'm gonna turn it low.
Can you remind folks what kind of sake again?
Sure. Yep. Just grab a color. Okay. So I have a question about sake. You can use any cooking sake that you find at grocery store, but they would have salt added, which is fine. And maybe you want to kind of cut back in soy sauce a little bit. The one I use is this is a very, very old company they've been making gekkeikan sake for like 600 years. They have a company in Kyoto down by the river, which is really nice. You can tour that place too. But anyways, you can find this I actually found this at Target a couple weeks ago for very cheap. So this is a drinkable sake, so you can drink it or use it in the cooking. That answer your question, I hope. Okay. Now, I'm just gonna check the soup really quick. You know what? Before moving on to rice bowls, let's finish the soup. Okay. So, if you don't mind bringing the camera down. Okay, so this is the soup that's been cooking. You can, if you're using chopsticks or a fork or knife, you can just kind of try to skewer through daikon radish. Maybe not so cooked through on this one. Just try something quick. Okay, maybe a few more minutes on this one. Okay. All right, then. Maybe I'll do the onigiri, right? Okay. So I'm gonna move you over just a little bit. Okay. So while the soup's cooking, let's move on to the last. Ooh, I hear somebody. Make rice bowls. Anybody making rice bowls with me today? Yes, is that Matt? Yeah. I don't know if I hear anymore. I only see like a few people on here, so sorry if I missed you. But I think there are a few other people that I'm pretty sure that you're making rice bowls with me, which is exciting. Okay, so I cooked the rice, 2 cups of rice. I'm gonna use a spatula and just kind of fluff it up a little bit. It helps if whatever is wet just a little bit. So I'm just fluffing it out. Just break it up. I don't want any big chunks. Then in here, I'm gonna just divide it into 8, just roughly, rough 8 proportions. It's like if you're cutting a pie, you know, just so you kind of know you're not gonna run out of rice towards the end. Okay, and let's have everything ready in front of you. including nori sheets, but keep those really dry. Nori sheets. So for this recipe, you're gonna need 2 full sheets. And I have 2 sheets here. I'm gonna cut them. Now it's nice and crispy. I can hear it. That's a good nori sheets, right? If it doesn't break up, it might be a little stale. So I cut it in half. Then I'm gonna cut it into quarter. If you can afford to use a full sheet or half a sheet per rice bowl, go for it. This is just little skinny strips, but you can use bigger chunks too. Okay, and if you think your nori is kind of stale, oh gosh, it doesn't really like break up so easily. On the open flame on the stove top with like a medium heat, you can just roast it a little bit until you can kind of smell the seaweed again, flip it, then roast again. And I think that'll improve your nori quite a bit. Okay. So in front of you, you should have your rice. Keep it nice and hot. I don't want you to take it out in the plate or something. Just keep it nice and hot. I have a little bowl to wet your hands. I have an empty bowl, so I don't have to burn my hands. I have a little bit of nori, or I'm sorry, seaweed, sea salt. Now today we're gonna make 2 kinds. I'm gonna do bonito. I'm gonna add little soy sauce in here. And mix this. Just enough soy sauce so the whole thing kind of combines together and gets a little damp. So it's kind of like that. See, I'm using the other opposite end of the chopsticks. I was using this for soup and meat, so I'm just gonna. And then the plum paste. Now you can have, I know some of you probably know like the tuna with mayonnaise. You can mix that too. You can have a little salted salmon. You can have different. You can just make it plain and sprinkle sesame seeds or furikake or something like that. That works too. Okay. So if everybody's ready, let's do it like the traditional way. Then maybe I can show you a few tricks. So let's add rice in here. The eighth of the rice, right? It's traditional, you would put this on your hand and that's really hot. So I don't want to do that. And I'm just gonna wet my finger and like make a little indentation there. Then add, you can do plum or bonito or both in the middle. Then just wet your hand a little bit, just kind of bring it together. Then at this point, you want to really wet your hands like that. Then use your maybe middle or index finger, grab a little salt. Just enough that it like gently coats it, maybe less than half a teaspoon per roll is fine. Then you'll take the rice on your hand. Then from your angle, you just have, I assume you're right-handed. You hold the rice with your left hand and maybe 2 or 3 fingers going over gently. Now you're trying to make a triangle. So you're doing this, right? Then you rotate halfway, then do another gentle. Then rotate, do another one. So you do this Maybe then you turn it around, then do it a few more times. Oh, I see people doing it. Then you should have triangle. Good job. Nice work. Let's do it one more time. Take the rice and then put a little hole in the middle. Then you can put, I'm going to put plum paste in this time. Then wet your hands, a little bit of salt. Then you can flip it or scoop it out. Make sure the filling stays inside. If it's like oozing out, just put a little rice on top. There you go. Then again, you use left hand to hold it, then like the right hand to kind of give it the mountain shape. Rotate, 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 rotate. And at this point, I usually like to do the other way. So it's kind of even. Now, sometimes it's winter time, my hands dry, I don't feel like holding rice in my hands. Then I take a plastic wrap. Plastic wrap, set it on the counter. Then on here, I sprinkle a little salt. Then I put the rice. Then I put the filling. Just gravel ends. Then I do the same. I do the triangle. But now you don't have to wet your hands. Then, I mean, if you're not going to eat this right away, then you have it all wrapped in the plastic already. So you can keep it like that and keep it separate from nori sheets. And right before you eat, you can unwrap, wrap it with the seaweed. Okay, I'll do one more. So I put the plastic down. I like watching people like going around and just trying to find ingredients and trying to do that. That's nice. Okay, and we'll do that again. What did I do last time? I'll do another bonito. I just take the four corners. And if you want to be lazy, you can just do a circular one too. But I think it's a good practice to do the triangle. And people will be like, whoa, how did you do that? But when you're making it, don't put too much pressure on. Otherwise, you're going to have like a rice cake kind of a. So you want to put some pressure on, but just kind of gently. Okay. Then when you're ready to eat, my aunt would make like, 20 of these and have nori sheets on the side. Then when we're all ready to eat, we would just grab nori sheets and put it over just like that. Okay. Now I'm just gonna check on the soup. I think soup is ready. So let's add miso. I think I lost some of the liquid here. I'm just gonna add a little more of the dashi. Okay. Then in here, let's add what we have not added. Shiitake mushrooms, bean sprouts. These gonna take like 2 minutes to cook. And the green onions. You can save the green onions for the later to sprinkle on top too. You can just put it in there. Oh, then let's not forget our pork. Then in here, so I'm gonna add just the rest of the dashi that I have here. I have a lot of ingredients in here. Then in here, let's add the miso. Maybe we don't have spooks of ladles. Okay, there's a lot of different ways to do this, but I prefer not to just put the miso directly, like a chunks in there, because then sometimes it doesn't dissolve. So I like to take some, then with your ladle, you can, this is a tiny ladle, it's kind of hard to do, but you can break it up.
A couple questions. Is the flavor of the Tonjiru more strong or more mild? And so, someone said I'm using awase miso, and I thought it was a bit strong, so I added more water.
Oh, okay, yeah, that works. Yep, awase miso and the red miso tend to have a little more salt. So, yes, I think that's a good idea for you to add a little more water or broth. And next time you can cut back on it.
And someone else said I have dry shiitake mushrooms, but sometimes they get very rubbery when I cook them. What is the best way to avoid that?
For this one, I might not put the dried mushrooms. Yeah, I think the dry mushroom kind of comes out slightly rubbery. I'm kind of used to texture, so I kind of like it. And it does have really strong flavors. I think for this recipe, I think the fresh one works the best. How do you avoid the rubbery? You want to reconstitute a long time. I usually put in a jar with water for a couple hours or a day. If you don't have time, you can put it in the warm water. That's all I can say, sorry. Okay. Now, it smells good. So let me try this. You don't want to boil miso, so I'm going to turn it off. Oh, it tastes so good. I think I'm just going to leave at that. It's a little bit on the sweeter end with a lot of root vegetables and the white miso. But I'm going to add a little bit of soy sauce in this one. In the recipe, I said maybe mirin. And if you're using a stronger miso, or I grew up eating sweeter miso, but if that's not really your thing, oh, I'm sorry. No, I grew up eating sweeter miso, and sometimes I don't find it, so I like to add a little bit of mirin at the end to kind of sweeten up a little bit. Where I grew up, we used to eat barley miso made out of barley. But this white miso is plenty sweet on its own. I kind of like to add a little bit to just kind of sharpen up the flavor. Okay. Just in a nice bowl. Actually, if you have oh, you have another question?
No, I'm just saying that looks beautiful.
You can add little sesame seeds on top, or if you really want like a rich flavor, you can add a little bit of tahini in it, and that kind of add more depth to the dish. Let me just put a little piece of pork on top. Okay, and since I do have sesame seeds, I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit. Looks nice. Then later you can. Okay, then how is my beef doing? Oh, okay. Okay. Looks good too. Now am I missing something in here? I think I need to add green onions. Set it aside, but oh, here it is. That's okay. I'm just gonna cut green onions quickly, then add it in so it'll look nice. My station is a mess, but bear with me. Okay. I got carried away on making rice bowls. I probably should have like mixed it just a little bit so everything gets equal amount of soy sauce. Let's do that right now. Let me try this one too. Now at this point you might want to like check the seasonings, and if you need a little bit more soy sauce, mirin, you know, you can adjust seasoning right now.
So there's a question about what do you think about using regular cabbage as a substitute for Napa cabbage?
No, the regular cabbage is dry, and you're not gonna have like this good juice, which I really like to eat with rice. So I probably wouldn't recommend it if there's absolutely nothing else. Yeah, but that's actually tastes pretty good to me. So this is something I would see in my grandma's tiny kitchen in her tiny apartment. And if you're not cooking right now, or if you can simmer this a little bit longer. It's like some of the stew, it's best if you like let it rest for maybe 20 minutes before you eat. But for the purpose of this class, I'm gonna dish it up. I kind of like to keep like the meat and like a tofu separate because tofu can be kind of gentle. It can be kind of soft and break up. So unless if you want that. And make sure you get to see all the colors. This looks very good. I hope you're making it home. Okay, and if you have like a little shichimi pepper at home, you can serve this with the pepper. You can have it at the table, or you can sprinkle a little bit. This cute little can, a little spigot. Okay, then let me the rice bowls on here. Okay, looks good. There you go. Is it possible for you to? She's gonna move the camera over so you can see the finished product. See it? Yep. So that's my comfort food, and I hope you enjoy the class. And sorry, I had to go kind of rather quick. Oh, I think we're doing okay on time. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So good job, everybody, and thanks for joining me. I know maybe I didn't get to all the questions you had, Let me see if we can, if there are any more questions that I can.
Yeah, I was just think that looks really yummy. It looks
Thank
beautiful.
you.
And then, do you use the leftover bonito and kelp for second
Oh
batch?
yeah, you can do that. Yep. Yep. Sometimes if I'm not making dashi again, the bonito, you can squeeze out all the water. Then on like the frying pan, you can break it up, and on the low heat, you can like kind of cook it to make it nice and dry, and add little soy sauce, sesame, a little bit of maybe mirin to sweeten up to make furikake sprinkles for rice. Sometimes I take the kelp, leftover kelp, and when I'm making like a simmered dish, I put it in, or secondary dashi for it.
And then, yeah, there's just a couple of folks. I'm just gonna read their first name and first initial. So Jessica said, "Thank you so much, Koshiki. You're so talented."
Oh, Jessica on my block? Jessica, maybe?
Oh, I don't know. Matthew.
My neighbor, yeah.
Matthew W says,
I think
"Thank you,
Matthew.
Koshiki.
Yeah,
Everything is
thank you,
good."
guys. Good to see you. Yeah.
Lily said, "Thank you
Lily,
for
thank
such a wonderful
you.
class."
Aw.
Julian said, "Thanks. We're looking forward to more traditional dishes."
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Next one is not so traditional, but if you've been to Japan and like if you had those steamed pork buns, I'm gonna do that on December 9th. I think that just went up on the Seward Co-op website. So you can sign up. Again, it's free. It's gonna be a little shorter class, and we're gonna make steamed buns together with egg drop soup. So hopefully, maybe you have those bamboo steamer. If not, we can use like the traditional metal ones that you might have at home. But yeah, I hope you can join us too.
Yeah.
And well, I think it's the next one's not up there, but in January and February, I'll be offering like a easy sushi making and also teishoku, like a set meal with pork or chicken cutlet, couple vegetables, soup, and rice, kind of a thing. So those will be coming up maybe in next month or so. Yep.
Right. Any other questions?
Any other questions? No? Okay, well, thank you so much again. And so good to see so many of you. And I hope to see you again next month. Bye. Bye.